Oh fuck yeah, red bitrate. That's how you know that I'm ready to stream. Bitrate on red. Microphone peaking. Oh yeah, I'm back, baby. Okay, so just to straighten things up, if anybody was following, which nobody was, but just for the sake of archiving, I guess, I'm not going to be working on Bullet Heaven anymore. Basically, as a result of socializing with people, I've ended up landing myself in a bunch of other projects that are gonna be taking my time away from that, and this is one of those. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to start working on one of those projects, game projects. I'm gonna be making a new game, and hopefully this time I'm going to actually finish it. I mean, not that it matters. Bullet Heaven was I was glad for Bullet Heaven because the whole point of doing that shit, I'm moving shit up on my desk. The whole point of making that project, right, was that I was going to be learning how to use Godot, and I'm pretty confident in it now. That's honestly mostly why I didn't keep going with it. It is a shame because I did have a bunch of ideas for it, but those ideas can fit any bullet hell-ish sort of game, so it's not really a problem. So yeah, today I'm gonna be starting work on a new game, and I'm hoping it's gonna be fun to do, maybe to watch. I don't know, probably not to watch. We'll see, we'll see. Is the mic fine, by the way? It's my impression is that it was speaking, but it should be better than last time purely because I changed the cable, right? I just swapped from one cable to another, and this one seems to work better. That's like, it should have been the first thing that I thought of, or for some reason I was messing around with drivers and like figuring out how Linux drivers work, and I didn't figure it out, by the way. Trying to change every single setting on OBS, right, to get the microphone to sound fine, and it didn't. It was a whole thing, and then I just changed the cable, and it's not great, but it's better. It's about as good as I remember it being, you know what I mean? I do have a big bag of cables, and I basically had to sift through it because it has way too many cables. And none of the cables are broken, is the thing, right? So like, if a cable is just actually broken, you can just throw it away without feeling bad, but like, a bunch of the cables work, but they just transmit power and not data, right? Which is good for charging things and not good for a microphone, for example, right? So that was fun. Just untangling cables for ages and then shoving them back in the bag because my cable management is ass. But yeah, sound fine on your end? That's good. But I always sound fine on your end, though. I think you just listen with terrible headphones next. Okay. Let's try to see. Let's get this stuff ready so that I can actually start working. By the way, how do you like the side chaining? I figured out this. Well, I learned this new setting on. Well, it's not new. I learned this. It's new to me. I learned this setting in OBS that actually makes it so that the volume of an audio source lowers when I speak. So it actually makes it's good for games, particularly very loud games, right? It means that I don't have to bother. It means that the EQ doesn't have to be quite as heavy, so that's nice. Yeah, I actually quite like the effect. I would like to have music with multiple layers, so that there's like a layer that just automatically lowers, but I would have to set that up later. To begin with, I would have to find a track for that. Let's see. Oh, oh God, what happened there? Okay, let's get rid of this to-do list that I'm not gonna be using anymore. Or actually, I should use it, just not right now, I guess. Okay, that should be good. What's the difference between Godot and Godot Game Window in my sources? Oh, wait, why do I have the monitor then? Oh, that's odd. Why did I set it up like that? Wait, turns out that I wasn't as ready to stream as I thought I was. So, good on me, right? Oh, I'm an idiot, actually. That's another one I should have changed. Can I Control-C this? Okay, whatever. We'll just make it invisible until we need to make it visible. The tracking on my mouth is worse than usual. I think it's just the lighting. Hold on, give me a second. This should be better. Whatever, it's serviceable. I don't care that much about it. Okay. Oop, there we go. This should be good. Okay. Oh boy, an empty project. It's always nice to be able to start here. Why is my mouth tracking so ass? Am I gonna have to change that? It only works when I really exaggerate the mouth shapes. And that's gonna be tiring. Okay, I'm gonna change that later, honestly. I'm gonna change it later. I've already waited long enough on this. Oh, fuck, why am I getting text messages now? Oh, Jesus. You know what? I'll check it later. I never get fucking text messages. What the heck's going on? Okay. Right, so let's get back on track. Right, so empty project, right? Empty Godot project. So what is this all about? What is this game going to be about? Well, the idea is to make a 2.5D sort of movement option heavy platforming game where you're supposed to, where you grab things and you throw them, and these items that you grab are your moveset, right? So during the runtime of the game, you're constantly grabbing little moves, using them as you need. Like one of them might give you like a ground pound or like a roll or like fucking the Mario Odyssey cap throw or whatever, right? And then when you need to use another or to grab another, you would just chuck it and grab that one instead, right? That's sort of the idea. Which sounds difficult to code, and it probably will be, so... But for now, we only need to have the very basics set up, actually. So, first of all, let's start by making a to-do list, right? Where is my to-do? Okay. So, basic movement. That's what I want to do today. Basic movement. By which I mean running. By which I mean running. Oh, you can't see that. Hold on. Jumping. By which I mean running and jumping. That's it. that's gonna be my objective for today, and depending on how quickly I achieve that, I may do more or less of this. So, yeah, okay. So, I did mention before that this project is going to be in 2.5D, right? I'm not used to working in Godot in 3D, so we're gonna see how that is going to turn out. It should be fairly similar to Unity, though. I can't imagine that it will be too much more difficult than just using fucking Vector 3 instead of Vector 2 and, what are they called? Quaternions? I can deal with quaternions, it's fine. So, first thing I need a character that moves left to right. Well, actually, the first thing that I need is input handling, don't I? So let's go to project settings and adjust the input map. Yeah, okay. So we're gonna need 2 actions, 3 actions. For the movement, 2, right? So left, right, and jump. These are all that we're gonna be coding today. So left is gonna be A. Actually, should it be A? Yes, it should be A. It's gonna be A. Right is going to be D. And then jump is going to be, I don't know, fucking space. That works. Left, right, and space. Alternative controls we can figure out as we go. Okay. So the thing about platformer movement is that it's kind of a solved problem already, isn't it? Like, so many people have made platformers that there are some things that we can just copy straight up, right? So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new scene, create a new folder. This is going to be for scenes. And I'm gonna make it colored, yes, I'm gonna make it colored gray. I'm gonna make a new folder. This is just usually what I always do. A folder for script. And the new folder, this one is for assets. And the scripts folder is going to be red. The assets folder is going to be purple, and then we're gonna make a new folder that's for resources. And by this I mean Godot custom resources that I may make. I'm definitely gonna make because they're very useful, and these are going to be yellow. Okay. Create a new scene. This is going to be a folder for the player character because I assume that it's going to need more than one scene. And then in this, create a new scene, and this is going to be the player, the main body of the player. No 2D? No 3D. Change type. Node 3D. There you go. Yeah, okay, so this player exists in a 3D world. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is just give it something so that I can see it. We're gonna give it a child node, and this is going to be, oh shit. How do you add, there's no way that there's a sprite 3, there is a sprite 3D! 2D sprite node in a 3D world. Oh, well, that makes things easier. Thanks, Godot. Honestly, yeah, I'm glad for that. Okay, and then this one's just going to have a texture, and it's going to be just a square. Gradient, new image. Can I just do this? No, because then you need to. Yeah. So gradient texture 2D, and it's going to be. Let me change the color, please. Thank you. Put this here. Yeah, just a white square. This is all that our player is right now. So, okay. Having that, we now need to make it move, right? Here's the thing. I do have code that handles movement for a different project, and I think that this would fit just fine, so long as we change the stuff to work in 3D rather than in 2D. Right, so if you see me looking to the left, by the way, I'm looking at the bitrate. So where do I find that? The tracking of my mouth is really bothering me. It's just not opening. Why is that? Oh, I know why it is. It's because I set the numbers while looking at something else. Fuck. Well, it catches it sometimes. Okay, where is my game projects? Here it is. Okay. I last used it in... Ah, shit. I didn't save the script, did I? Yeah, I didn't. I definitely didn't. I just deleted it because I wanted to be done with that project. I didn't even salvage anything from it. Okay, that's fine because I did use it in another one, and this one I do know that I like it. Okay. Movement parameters. No, it's not movement parameters. Oh, well, that is useful. Let's grab that. And the player movement and player input processing. Okay. Okay. Okay, good. So I have 3 scripts here that are gonna handle a couple of things on the player. So first of all, we're gonna add a node for the player. This is just for organizational purposes because it could just be anything. And this node is going to be the input processor. So essentially, this little guy is going to be in charge of telling the player what buttons are being pressed and translating that into movement orders that the player can follow depending on the occasion, right? So let's add a script to this. We're gonna add it not in that, but in here, scripts input processor. Yeah, let's make a new folder. This one's for the player. And in here, the input processor. Because we may have other things that need to react to input, and I want to have the freedom to call those input processors as well. Right. Input processor extends node, we're gonna call class, name, player, input, processor. I like giving all my classes names in GD script. It's not actually necessary, and most of the time I end up not using them, but it actually makes it easier for me to access variables from inside here when I reference them in other scripts. So that's good. Okay, so let's copy the input processor from what I have here. And it shouldn't be character body to be, yep, like this. Okay. So this is throwing me a bunch of errors, right? So let's just go bit by bit. This script's function is only to process controller inputs and store them as relevant variables. Okay, yes. Actual movement of the player will happen in a script that inherits from this one. That is not true. Will happen in a script that references this one because it's better to not overuse inheritance. Like that's why I'm having a subnode here. Horizontal input is going to be a number from -1 to 1. Jump input representing whether the button is pressed or not. Oh, okay, so this is why it's failing. Yeah, this is because I had a custom enum. So let's actually copy that since that's just a useful thing to have. Where do I have my enums? Right here. Oh, I only had one? That's funny. Okay, here on scripts, we're gonna put a new script. Actually, no. How do I make a script global? I always forget that. There's a way to do that, but I always forget. But I think it's enough to just... Yeah, I think it's enough to just do this. Create new script. This one's for enums. So all my custom enums, right? Have them here. Paste this. Do I even need to extend node actually? Can it just be a script that lives in the ether? Is that valid? No. I get the impression that this is not actually how this works. Okay, well, you know what? Screw it. We're gonna be opening that project and seeing how it handles the Jesus Christ, how it handles the all that. So just give me 1 second. We're dealing with technical stuff right now. I think I can open 2 Godot instances. I think that's not a problem. It shouldn't break. Yeah, it didn't. Okay, good. Godot is a very lightweight program, so... Okay, so how do you actually handle the debug, the enum stuff? Oh, it's a global script? Okay. That's a setting that you have. So then let's actually go... Right. Okay, so now we need to actually set that as a global script. Go to project settings, go to global. Yep. This one. Right, and then it has the enum's name, and then I can just... You can't find it. Is it because it did have to inherit from node? Like this? Yes, it did. Okay. So we have a button state for the jump input, and for the second we don't have one yet, so let's not do that. What does this do? It doesn't seem to do much of anything, so if I do need it, we're gonna check it later. Secondary... Yeah, we don't need the secondary. This is going to set... Yeah, we don't care about this. So we're gonna transform the left and right inputs, which here I named with lowercase, which I probably shouldn't have actually. Input point get action get is action just press. No, actually this is more consistent. Okay, so yeah, lowercase. Lowercase L, lowercase R, and then lowercase jump. Right. And then this button state is going to be... Right, this is a custom function that takes the actual button state and converts it into the enum that I just made, because this is just a true or false statement returned from a thing. So on every physics process, it's going to fetch these values, and then it's going to store them just in these 2 variables that belong to it. And this is all this node is going to do. And then this node is going to, whenever it wants to move, it's going to check against this, and it's going to check these 2 values, right? So that means that we need this script that is for the player. Should be in scripts player, and this should be... Do we just call it player? I don't like that. No, here's what we're gonna do instead. Because I feel that the player is going to have a bunch of complicated things that it's going to need to do, and I'm not sure that I really want it to be on the root, all the movement logic. I would like to have a node that only deals with the movement, right? It's called encapsulation. So we're gonna have a new node, and this is just going to be a normal node, and this is going to be the movement handler. Movement handler, right? And this movement handler is going to it's going to have its own script, and it's going to go something like here, right here. Movement handler. Yep, that's fine. Yep, I like that. Okay, and then class name player movement handler, right? That extends node. It's just a random node because the thing that it's going to manipulate is external to itself. So this one is going to need a reference to the input. It's going to need a reference to the input processor. Basically, it's going to need to know who this guy is. This guy doesn't need to know who anyone is. This guy is just playing with its own variables, and these other guys are just going to be checking in on him so that they can use those variables. But this guy doesn't need to know. That's the cool thing about writing it like this, is that this guy is completely independent. It's just doing its thing, right? So the movement handler is going to need to know who the input processor is. Input processor, and we're going to tell it that it is of type player input processor, right? And then we tell it, hey, this is the guy you're looking for, right? So how is it going to handle the movement? That is code that I had pre-written. It's one of those that I had pre-written. Did I close? I closed it. I'm such an idiot. Why did I close it? I needed it. And it doesn't remember. Right, of course. Do you have a recently opened? Yes, okay, good. It's not the input processor, it's the player movement. Right. This is a long ass script. So we're gonna have to go bit by bit and seeing what to do. Copy and pasting code is, by the way, the essence of coding. That's how you know that you're a real programmer. Right, so we tell it who the input processor is. We're going to need, we're going to need the movement parameters first, actually. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. This shouldn't be difficult. We need player input processor, we need recent movement parameters. This one we should actually be able to just copy and paste and have it be fine. We're gonna need a new script that inherits from resource, not from node. Resource, yes. And so the point is, you're right, when you make a resource in GDScript, that actually lets you edit it in the inspector as like its own thing, right? It's actually a really useful feature in case you want to like pack a bunch of variables and numbers and textures into like one little file that you can then modify and then have other scripts use, right? Like say that you have a weapon and you want this weapon to have a picture, right? Every script that uses that picture is going to need a reference to the picture. But then if you want to change that picture, then you're going to have to change all those references. What you can do is, well, actually what you can do is just change the picture, the file of the picture, right? But if you actually want multiple things to point to the same picture, then it gets messy, right? With a resource, what you can do is create a resource that holds all the data for this weapon, including the picture. And then when you want to switch the picture, you just change the picture on the resource, and every other object knows that it has changed because they're pointing to the resource. It's basically a way to aggregate data in the inspector here, right? And the data in this case that I want to aggregate is all the settings and all the numbers that define how the player will move. So stuff like max speed, acceleration, drag, gravity, fall velocity. The idea is that I can have multiple sets of these numbers so that I can try them out, and even so that I can switch them depending on the occasion. So imagine that you have a level that's on the moon, right? And you need the gravity to be lower for that level. I can just swap a resource that handles the movement in that way. Or on your character steps on ice and you want its movement parameters to change. You don't want to store those numbers on the code, you want to store them on a separate place. So we want this to go here, and it's going to be called movement params. Movement parameters. Created. And in here we want to paste this bit of code. So because this is just a collection of numbers, this should actually be fine to just leave like that. But just in case, let's check it out. Let's make sure that this is exactly what I expected to be. The idea of making this a resource is to allow for easy hot swapping during gameplay. Yes, say for example, you want the player to become heavier as a result of some mechanic. That's very possible. Maximum achievable horizontal speed through inputs. Acceleration factor applied to input while on the ground. Same as above but mid-air. Deceleration of speed while no input is being received on the ground. Right, so just, yeah, ground drag as above but mid-air. Acceleration factor to be applied when input is opposite direction to inertia, right? So this is just like if the player is holding the opposite direction to where it's moving, we want it to brake. That's and that should brake faster than just the player's move speed, right? Essentially, it's easier to go against the movement, the current movement that you have, than to. It's easier to lose speed than it is to gain it, right? And that is just actually physical. It's because you're working with the drag and not against it, right? From the floor and from the air around you. Gravity. It's easier to sustain speed, that's what inertia is, but it's easier to lose it because the Earth is not like a complete whatever. It's physics. Physics. Just look it up. It's physics. Gravity, jump force, these are self-explanatory. Fast gravity applied if the jump button is let go of before upward movement is stopped with an O. Terminal velocity limit of how fast it can fall. And this is just default numbers. Let's actually make this look a bit nicer just by putting each of these in its own line because it's a very long line. But other than that, this script is just fine. So this is just setting default parameters for all of this. So like that. Yeah, they should be fine. Okay, so then what we want to do is we want to create a new, and actually let's just copy it as well. Because this is just for testing purposes. It doesn't really matter that it be actually all that accurate. Like, we're going to be fiddling with this as we sort of develop the rest of the game and see where we want everything else to be. The movement parameters, yeah, let's just take this. Just open it with the, just open it with the thing. It's fine. I can just look at it. Good. File formats are very readable. Got it. Right. So we want to make a new one of these. So yeah, create a new resource, and this resource is going to be of type movement. Oh, I didn't give it a name. Yeah. Okay. Class name movement parameters. Right. And then I create a new resource of that type. There it is. We're gonna put it right here. Actually, what I should do is create a folder, because if I'm going to be having many of these, then I want them to live in their own space, to not get lost. So put these two right there. Right? Okay. And this is just going to be called rename default. So these are going to be the default movement parameters. Max horizontal speed 800, ground acceleration 40, air acceleration 15, ground drag 18, air drag 5, ground brake acceleration 88, gravity 45, jump force 1500, fast gravity 150, terminal velocity 50,000. These are just numbers that I found after fiddling with some other game a bunch, and they're probably not going to be definitive. Right, okay, so this is the stuff that we have. And then now actually we can go into this movement handler and actually handle the movement. Now this is a lot of code, so we're gonna have to go little by little and just check it. Up to now, most of what we've been doing is just copying and pasting, right? And actually, I probably should have tested the input processor to check that it was actually doing what I thought it was doing. But whatever. Okay, so we don't need this because this is just the same as this line over here. We have a reference to the input processor. Makes sense. We have the default parameters, which is a resource, but it's not any resource. It's actually the movement parameters resource specifically. We want it to be that. We have the holding checkpoint parameter. Yeah, this is not relevant because this is just for a different game system. Flippable. Right, okay. So this, no. Honestly, that shouldn't have been there to begin with. Jump buffer frames. How many physics process a meter jump input should be remembered to trigger an immediate jump when ground is reached? I feel like that should be a parameter that should be in the movement parameters, actually, because that's the sort of thing that just affects movement, and it's the sort of number that you want to just change. So yeah, let's do that. At export variable coyote time frames. Wait, is that coyote time? How many physics process a meter jump input should be remembered to trigger an immediate jump when ground? Yeah, that's not coyote time. That's does that actually have a name? I know what it is. It's the thing when you're jumping and you hit the jump button a little bit before you reach the ground, but the game lets you jump anyways because like being frame perfect would be ridiculous, right? Bunny hop frames. So we're gonna call them bunny hop frames, and I'm gonna move that explanation here so that I don't forget what I actually mean by that. If I find out that it has a name, buffering? It is jump buffering. That is what it's called. Yeah, jump buffering. Like, what an idiot. It says it right here. Why did I not? Why did I forget? It's jump buffer. Oh boy, maybe I should quit while I'm ahead, honestly. Like, if I forgot that, I think it was written right on the screen. Right, jump buffer. How many physics process frames a meter jump input should be remembered to trigger an immediate jump when the ground is reached? Okay, yeah, that's exactly what we want. And just I gotta remember that. So this is gonna live on the parameters and not in here. Then we have a bunch of variables. Current active parameters. Right, that makes sense. We need to know which ones. The default ones are just which one it starts, but then we may want to change them mid-game as a result of some action. Like, for example, you grab a rock and now you can't jump as high, or a boulder actually more than a rock, or that sort of thing. Current horizontal speed makes sense. Current vertical speed also makes sense. Fast falling. Yeah, jump buffer. How many frames of jump buffer we have currently? Makes sense. If you have just stomped. Okay, we don't have a stomping mechanic yet, so we're going to remove that. On ready, you're going to set the default parameters. And setting the default parameters implies that the current active parameters and the parameters should be movement parameters type, not any resource. Right, okay, so on ready, when the game begins, you set the parameters to the default ones. That's what it means to be default. Quick function to reset the movement parameters back to default, because we may want to do this as a result of something else, which is why I keep this variable exported, right? This is not inheriting from anything, so we don't need that. So yeah, velocity point x is going to calculate the horizontal velocity given the horizontal input. Okay, the horizontal input you're going to get from the input processor. So input processor, horizontal input. That's what we want. That's what we want. Velocity, right. Okay, yes. Okay, so you are not right. These velocity parameters, they exist in character controller nodes. Since you're not referencing yourself, that means that we're going to need a reference to the player, which should be a character controller node. So, please tell me that it is a character body. Okay, character body 3D. It's also going to need a collision shape, but we can just add that. Yeah, we can just add that. Collision shape 3D, and this is going to go here, and this is going to be, let's say, just like a cube box. A box is a cube. It is 1 meter by 1 meter. What does that look like? Yeah, sure, we can just make you a little bit larger. What's your size? Where's your size? It's not like this matters greatly. Scale. Remember, the actual movement is handled in 2D, but these objects exist as... Actually... I wonder... Can I make this a character control 2D? Character body 2D? Yes, but it no longer exists in the... Okay. I want it to exist in the 3D world, so it needs to be a 3D thing. It doesn't matter, because, like, just make sure that everything is aligned to the Z-axis, and then have the 3D environment just be visual. That's fine. Actually, if it's gonna be 2.5D, what I would like to do is something like what L-Sword or a bunch of other 2D, 2.5D brawlers do, is where the character is not restrained to a plane, but rather it sort of works like a train track, so it can curve, right? That's what I would like, but for that I would need, like... What would I need for that? Like a curve, right? Like a Bezier curve that I could, like, yeah. Okay, let's think that, let's leave that for later. That's not something we need to worry about right now. Right, so the player, and it has its collision shape, and it now collides. Now, I think the character body 2D, 3D has the same move and slide function that the 2D one has. And so I should be able to just adjust its velocity X and Y. But first we need to reference it. This movement handler needs to know what it has to move. So export var. Also, let's keep names consistent. Input processor. Like that. And then we're going to need the player, the actual movable player. Let's call it player body, just in case I end up having something different. And this is going to be the character, what was it called? Character body 3D. Yeah, this is of type character body 3D. Right? Then, oh, my neck hurts. I've been sitting weird. I just got a new follower. Oh, I got a new follower. Nice. Hello, Lisa Jean. You doing okay? Making games? Trying to make games? Thanks for the follow. Player body. Right, so we have this player body. We want to... Shit, I lost track. I'm just so excited about a new follow. Okay, player body, right, so we need to change these velocity parameters so that they are of the player body, because this is not the same script that it used to be. Player body velocity X and velocity Y. Now, the other thing is that I want to make sure that it actually is X, because I could be going on the Z axis. Right? And I feel like... Do you play just this game or any other? You're a bot, aren't you? That is a really weird question. You're a bot, aren't you? Okay. Player body velocity Y. I don't have proof, so I'm letting it stay there for now, but player body velocity Y. Okay, so why is it? Oh, it's jumping, but it's not actually the velocity. Jump input. Or you're really not paying attention. That's the other thing. That's the other possibility. Jump input. Right. Okay. Yeah, but see, you reacted to the chat message and not to my voice. So... Okay, if you're not a bot, say the same thing that you said, but at me, the streamer. if you don't do this in, let's say, 2 minutes, we're... Okay, what am I actually doing? Jump input processor, jump input. I want to... Right, okay, so the other thing that I need to check is that this is actually on the x-axis. Okay, yes, x. X is fine for now. We're probably going to want to not restrict it in that way, but we can handle that later. So yeah, for now, x-axis. You get the jump input from the input processor, and you use that to calculate the vertical velocity. We're going to assume that these functions are correct until we get to them. We update the jump buffer. Okay. And move and slide. Right, move and slide needs to be on the player body, not on yourself, because you are not a player body. The move and slide works. Okay, good. Then horizontal input. If horizontal input is larger than 0. Okay. Here's what we're gonna do, because otherwise I have to write this every time, right? This. Except, hold on. No, hold on. Actually, I can get rid of this, because this is to flip the sprite, and that is not something that we're dealing with right now. So, yeah, flip it. Right, we don't need that. Current horizontal speed, velocity x, which is... right, then we want to get... Okay, but hold on. Right, we want to take the velocity and save it so that we can use it to calculate the velocity next frame. However, in this case, what I'm doing is writing to a different node and then reading from a different node. It actually would be a lot better to write to a local variable first and then write that local variable to the next node. This is a real micro optimization. This does not matter, but it's gonna bother me if I don't fix it. And then input processor point velocity point x is going to be equal to current horizontal speed. Yeah, okay, exactly. And then this one, the same for this one. So current vertical speed, move this to here. And then move the equal sign to the other side. So assign velocity point y to that. Right? And it's inside of the input processor. It's not inside of the input processor. What the fuck am I thinking? It's inside of the player body. And critically, these need to happen before we call move and slide, because that's how move and slide works. Move and slide works with the velocities that are stored inside of this guy. So yeah, we calculate the velocity, save them for next frame, then use those numbers that we saved, put them onto the character body's velocity parameters, and then call move and slide so that it handles the movement on its own. So this movement handler is not actually making it move, it's just calculating how much it should move so that the actual character body does it, right? This is just a debug function, we don't need it. Right, okay, so that's just the basic movement. However, we are trusting in a bunch of functions here, so we need to check that all of those actually do what I want them to do. First of all, update jump buffer if is on floor, right? Who is on floor? Player body is on floor. Then the jump buffer is 0, right? We update the jump buffer to 0 because the jump buffer only means something when you're midair. Then if the jump input processor point jump input has been pressed, then, and this is only if you're in the air. If you're in the air and the player pressed the jump, then, oh fuck, what did I do? Yeah, if you're midair and the player pressed the jump, then move the jump buffer by jump buffer frames. Yeah. The jump buffer becomes jump buffer frames. Where is it? It's the parameters, right? Not the default parameters though, it's the current active parameters. Take the parameters, check how many buffer frames there are, and assign that many to the jump buffer. And then if the player didn't press the input and it's in the air, then the jump buffer, you reduce it by 1. So essentially, just keep account of how many frames ago the player pressed the jump button if you're in the air, right? And if that number is greater than 0, then later we're going to auto-trigger a jump when the player touches the ground, right? And then, so this should work just as it is. Calculate horizontal velocity is used here, and this is what we do to calculate it. This is a bunch of math. Asking for the input number rather than taking horizontal input allows us to intersect it. Oh, right, okay, yeah, this is right. So yeah, we don't directly, this function doesn't directly read from the input processor, rather it receives a number and we put it here. So the idea is, if there is some condition like player is confused and its controls get reversed, we can do that here, for example, right? Affects the reverse control or that sort of thing. Target speed, yeah, we have a variable which is target speed, and that is the target speed that all of this code works. So the input number which you just received, the active parameters max horizontal speed, and that is like the speed that the player is inputting, right? So the player is inputting max to the right, but it's not going to necessarily be moving max to the right, max speed to the right as soon as he presses it. There's like an acceleration, and this is what this does. Oh fuck, there's another function, right? Okay, and then move toward this accel. Okay, accel, yeah, you get the acceleration because the acceleration is also dependent on conditions, right? That makes sense. The target speed and the current speed, right? And that's what you do. And so this depends on the current horizontal speed. But it's fine though, because it's gonna take the speed from the previous frame. Okay, so get horizontal acceleration if is on floor. Who is on floor? Player body. Player body is on floor. If the player body is on the floor, then if the player is on the floor, right, you also take the input, right? If the player is on the floor, does this actually? Yeah, okay, so this comment it's already a fixed issue. I don't need it. If the player is on the floor and is not inputting any movement, then the acceleration should be the ground drag, because that's the amount of speed that it should be decelerating, right? Otherwise, the player is inputting movement, then you take sign float? Oh, you take the sign of the input number, so whether it's positive or negative. Ah, right. This is if the input direction is opposite the movement direction, and then you use the brake acceleration. And if it is not, then you use the ground acceleration, because remember, they're different. If you're moving against your current movement, you have higher acceleration. If you're trying to move against your current movement. And then if you're in the air, right, let's comment that, because that's if player is on floor. I mean, that's self-explanatory, but then the next one isn't. So if player is mid-air. Man, I forgot how much streaming dries out my throat. Do I have water? I have water. Remember to hydrate. I was expecting this code to be so reusable. I was expecting that I was going to be just deleting whole bunches of it and rewriting them, but actually it's just... I mean, it seems correct. We're gonna run it later and see how much it works. And then the air doesn't actually have the braking effect because you're not going against friction. Like, in the air, it's not... You lose a bit of control in the air, right? So you either use the drag or the acceleration, depending on whether you're inputting anything or nothing at all. Then that's the horizontal acceleration, and then the vertical velocity, right? So we use that to calculate the horizontal velocity, which we use to calculate the movement, the total velocity. Then for the vertical velocity, if it's not on floor, who is not on floor? Player body is not on floor. Player body is on floor. We don't have a down action yet, so let's just delete that right now. If the player is on floor, then if the jump state... What is the jump state? Oh, the jump button state. Okay, that's confusing actually, so let's call it that. Jump button state. If the button state is not just pressed and the jump buffer equals 0. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. If the player is on the floor and they haven't pressed the jump button and there's no jump buffer, so they didn't press a jump button a little bit ago while they were midair, then the player does not jump. We set fast falling to false and we return 0, 0. So there's 0 vertical speed because it's stuck to the ground, right? Otherwise if the jump button was pressed, so if jump button was pressed or jump was pressed this frame or jump buffer frames ago midair, because the jump buffer doesn't take effect if you're on the ground, then hold on, if the jump buffer is not equal to 0, this shouldn't make a difference, but I'm scared to change it. Because I think fast falling should be set to false. I mean, it's set to false whenever a jump begins, so I feel like I could just do this. But okay, I'm not actually sure, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna leave them there, and fast falling equals false, and then put a note uncomment these two lines if line 60. Well, actually, it won't always be 69. If the one after causes issues, because otherwise we're doing an if check when we shouldn't be, right? So, and then you return the negative of the jump force. The negative because the up direction is the negative in Godot. Up is negative y, right? Hold on, let me check, because I know it is in 2D, but it's in 3D as well. Position, and then if I move you up, no, in 3D it's positive. Good thing I checked. Also, that's weird. Yeah, so it shouldn't be negative, it should be the positive, right? Otherwise, so if you're already in the air, then the acceleration depends on a bunch of things, and that's why we have this function. And then you move towards that acceleration by the acceleration number towards... Yeah, you move from your current velocity to terminal velocity by a factor of acceleration. Makes sense. That's what acceleration means. And it's terminal velocity because you're falling, right? Comment these two lines if you want fast falling to only be applied on upwards velocity. We'll see if that's what we want. If you're not fast falling and the jump button was released, right? If the jump button was released, hold on. Yeah, if the jump button was released, this is the same thing as before. This name is going to confuse me later, so I'm gonna call it jump button state instead. Yeah, if you're not fast falling, but the jump button was released, or the jump button is just not being held at all, then you make fast falling true. So you begin fast falling, right? And if you're already fast falling, then you can't stop that. Like, it's a one and done sort of deal. It only resets when you start a new jump, so here, right? If you are fast falling, then you return the fast gravity. If you're not, you return the normal gravity. So you fall faster when you let go of the button. Also, I think it's been like 2 minutes. What the fuck? Oh, because I'm not logged in there. Okay. Okay, there we go. Way more than 2 minutes. Oh, I forgot. You get lost in the coding. Don't judge me. Okay, air impulse. What was this? Is this even actually called? It's called from an inherited collision handler when it stomps on an enemy. Okay, so we don't need it. Checkpoint state, also another thing right now. Kill momentum. If for any reason it becomes necessary to do this. Actually, yeah, I like this. This is a good function to have. But the velocity belongs to the player, to the player what? And this is vector 3, 0, because we're working in 3D. Okay. Okay, so yeah, this is just a... We don't actually use this right now, but this is just a function that if we ever need to just completely kill momentum, it just makes everything 0. Just fully still. Probably useful for something like a cinematic where you need to stop the player right in place, right? Okay, so that should work. Okay, so I'm gonna click play. What we expect to see is that this square should just fall. That's what we should expect. Actually, I need to set up some parameters. You need to know who the input processor is. You need to know that the default parameters are these, and you also need to know that the player body is this one. Those are the things that you need to know. So what we should see is that I click play and the player just falls. Yes. And no, it didn't. Error. Okay, what happened? Invalid access to property or key max horizontal speed on the base object of type nil, which is current active parameters. Current active parameters was made default parameters, and default parameters I just set here. So for this to be nil, that means that this must not have happened yet, which means that this must not have happened yet, which means that you did a physics process before already? That shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. Are you sure that that's what's happening? This should happen first. And this should happen second. Right? And so let's see if that is actually the order in which things are going on. Okay, where's the output? Yeah, that happened in the right order. And it happened, so this shouldn't be nil. What's going on? On a base object of type nil. So you think the current active parameters is for whatever reason nil. Well, let's see. Tell me what current active parameters is after you do this. And tell me what do you think current active parameter is. Current active param... Oh, hold on, am I stupid? No, I'm not. Okay, current active params. Tell me what you think it is right here, and tell me what you think it is right before your error. It should be the same on both, and it should not be nil. So the first time it's null. So it's null. So it's not happening right here. Default params is of type movement parameters. And current active params is of type movement parameters. And these are just the same, right? They are the same. So why is this assignment not happening? Tell me what type you think default params is, actually. Null. Why is it null? It's not. Oh, because I gave it the script. I should give it. I have to give it the resource. Why did it let me though? I feel like it shouldn't have let me. Is the script the same type as the resource? Does the script somehow count as the type of the resource, even though it's describing a resource? Because that's a silly way for things to be. That's like if you said that a cow counts as a type of milk. It doesn't. The cow just makes the milk. That feels like a that feels like a dev bug. But actually, if I just drag something unrelated, yeah, no, it doesn't let me. But it does let me do this, even though, huh? That's weird. That's weird. Okay, okay, this time for sure, we should see the cube fall. It's showing me the 2D environment. Okay, project settings, general. We're looking for rendering? No. Looking for 3D, 2D, navigation, 3D render, 2D render. How do I make it the 3D, the default window? Well, actually, you know what? Actually, I don't need to do that because it just becomes that when you have a camera. So let's do another scene. Create new scene. This is going to be a test scene. Test scene like that. Delete it. I forgot to set something. Yeah, test scene. Make it a 3D scene. Here we go. This one doesn't exist anymore. Okay, we have this. This is our 3D scene. Here we're gonna put the player, and here we're also going to put a camera, because you always need a camera, don't you? Change type. No, don't change type. I need a new node, and this is just a camera, and this is going to be just... Later on, we're gonna have a... What? Oh, you actually can see what the camera sees. Oh, that's nice. That's nice, nice, nice. Okay, let's put the camera like here and here, right? So yeah, this camera. Later on, we're gonna actually make a scene that is going to be the camera, because cameras need like something, like they need to actually do stuff that makes sense, right? They need to have a bunch of functions. They need their own functionality. But for now, that camera. I am going to be right back. Give me a second, because I've been holding it for a while, so going to the restroom. Give me a second. Back. Okay. Game making. Okay. So what we should see is the cube. The cube. It's not a cube, it's a square. We should see the square full. That's what we should see. How do I make the 3D scene the default? Actually, how do I make this camera the default? Current. Yes, always current. What's going on? Oh shit, how do I... Okay, oh, my bitrate is green, that's nice. Okay, how do I make... We're gonna have to go to Google. Google, how do I make 3D scene the default for my Godot project? Please and thank you. Project settings, and then to run. Project settings, and then to run. Right. Yeah, stupid. Should be the test scene. Here. There you go. Okay, so I saw the square flash for like a millisecond. And now we didn't. Okay, how would you run this scene? Play this scene. Yeah, I saw the square. It seems to have fallen greatly. How odd. Actually, give me a second. I think I have an idea of what this might be. This is 1 mm. Yeah, no, actually that shouldn't be a problem. Okay, I'm gonna assume that that little flash of the cube was the cube falling, because there's an easy way to test that. Okay, so we're gonna add a child node, and this is going to be a floor, so we need a floor. We need a, hold on. There was an easy way to do 3D terrain, just when you need it really quick and dirty, but I forget what it was. Vehicle, wheels, spring arms, skeleton, shape cast, window start composition. Yeah, it's definitely not any of these. Navigation region, navigation link, marker, skeleton modifier, light map, grid map, joint, collision polygon, camera, collision object, physics object. No. No. Okay, I'm gonna assume that it's the collision polygon. What does this do? Collision polygon? Yeah, sure. No, there was an easy way. There was an easier way. There was one that was like that just had it. World environment, timer, player move. No, these are the ones that I defined. Editor. Canvas layer. Oh, this is bothering me. There was a really easy one. You could just double click it and it would add. Okay, Google again. Google. How do I make a easy collision cube Gorot? Mesh instance. Mesh instance? Mesh. No, it was definitely not this. No, because then I have to add the mesh. No, there was one that just had it. At this point, it would have been faster to just do it the slow way. CSG primitive, mesh instance, multiple instance, visual instance. It's not. Okay, forget. Node 3D, collision object 3D, physics body 3D, rigid body 3D, vehicle body? No. Static body, animatable body, character body, physical bone. No. Area 3D, also no. Visual instance, geometry instance, CSG shape, CSG primitive. Oh, it's CSG primitives. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Okay. Yeah, no wonder I didn't find it. It was buried under like 7 things. Let's just make this like this. And how does it look on camera? Let's tilt the camera up a little bit so that we can get more of a viewing angle, and then make this longer. And then let's also make this player, let's make this sprite a different color so that it contrasts a bit better. This should be blue. Why not? Like that. Save this, and then click play. Does this have collision? By the way, you can hear the music, right? I'm pretty sure I set it to what it should be. Yes, okay, you can. Thank you. Okay, so Allows you to create a box for use with the CSG system. CSG nodes are intended to be used for level prototyping. Creating CSG nodes has a significant CPU cost compared to creating machines. Yeah, obviously. Within noise CSG nodes, so it should be avoided during gameplay. Yeah, obviously. Yeah, this is just for temporary stuff. Does this have collision though? On its own, or do I have to add it? Google, yeah. Does CSG box have collision, or do I have to put it in? Can have collision, but it's not automatic. Okay, thank you. So enable use collision. Oh, that's just thing. Ah, that explains it. And the box still went right through. Okay, maybe it's falling too fast. I don't know why that would be, but let's double check. Okay, let's make sure that on game creation, all of your velocity parameters are set to 0. So on ready, current horizontal speed equals 0, and current vertical speed equals 0. So then on the first frame, it will just set them from 0. No, it still does that. Okay, what's going on? At the very least, I know that I can see the thing, right? Like, I can see it. Because you can see this cube, so... Yeah, it's visible. There's no lighting in the world, that's why it looks like hats, but... But I wonder if that's it, actually. I wonder. Give me world properties. Give me a world environment. Make a new environment, sure. Make the background a clear custom color. Make it like... this sort of white-ish. Yeah, make it yellow. And then just add ambient light and make it like really bright. No, that doesn't seem to change much. Yep, it just doesn't change much. Okay, let's just get rid of it then, because we don't need it. That's curious. Okay, so is it not colliding, or is it something different happening? Because the player, right, this has its collision shape, and its collision shape is this cube. So like it should be moving... Okay, first of all, input processor. Let's just make it so that you don't do jack shit, right? Just make it so that your physics process just passes. This should make it so that the thing doesn't move, right? That way we can test it. Now, if I set it to not move, it still does that. So... is something else forcing you to move? First of all, are you even running? Does fast work the way that I think it does? It doesn't. Okay, good. So then let's instead just... I wish that Godot had multi-line comments. I feel like I always miss those. Okay. So that's good. That's good for confirmation. So it is this that is doing that erroneous movement, isn't it? That means that it's just a matter of finding out where it is. Is it the velocity Y? That's, I mean, seems the most obvious. Okay. Question, if I move you side to side, do you still move though? Does the input process even work? Good question. Does the input processor even work? Print me this variable. It's not taking in my keyboard inputs. Okay, so project settings, input map. It's A and D, so it should be doing it. It's left and right with a lowercase. That's weird. Why is this just not listening to anything? Is the input processor even happening? The input processor? Yeah, it is. It should be. It should be listening to me, but it should be listening when I press A and D. My keyboard is working. Yeah, no, it's just not weird. Weird. Where is he here? Like, are you just not A? Yeah, that's the thing. That's the same thing. It's just not listening to the keyboard. What am I using? Get access. There's nothing about this that implies that it wouldn't work because it's extending from node. And I don't see why that would be the case. Why that would not be the case. Yeah, no, it is recognizing that the script is attached. Okay, what if I play this scene? What if I play this in now? Ah, shit, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea. I have no fucking clue. To begin with, this should be a completely separate issue from the player just disappearing. But I do need to fix this anyway, so... Is this input processor? Going to the input, choosing get access between left and right, and left and right are valid actions. They're left and right, it even tells me in the thing. So if they are, then why aren't they? Why are they constantly giving me 0? Yeah, no, I'm just pressing the keys like crazy and it's not reacting at all. Is it a matter of the keys that are picked? Okay, is it because I'm using a different keyboard? Works exactly the same on the integrated keyboard. Maybe it's a matter of the keys. No difference, okay. Maybe it's a matter of input method. What if I make it left mouse button and right mouse button? Obviously, if this works, this is not a fix to the issue, but it might shed some light on where the issue even is coming from. Oh, I'm stupid. I disabled the input on the... Oh, for fuck's sake. So it was working, I just disabled it like a moron. Okay. Good to know that. I didn't know that that was a thing you could even do. When did I do that? I guess I was clicking... I was clicking on stuff. Okay. Those numbers are way too high, but we can deal with that later. Then... let's... So we know that the player's inputs are working, right? Let's re-enable this and see what happens. It might really be a matter of just numbers being too high. Like maybe I'm underestimating the scale of a 3D scene. So let's go to this test scene. Put this camera way farther back, like here. Put this way farther down, like there, and see what that looks like. Yeah, no, okay, these movement parameters, maximum horizontal speed, let's just make air, gravity, let's just make gravity, let's divide everything by 10, and see what I get from that. Because if I scale everything down uniformly, then in theory it should be exactly the same feel, just on a smaller scale. But actually, my limited knowledge of calculus leads me to believe that that may not actually be the case. Did I shrink gravity twice? I think I did. Yeah, I did. Okay. By 10, divide 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 by 10. And jump buffer, let's make it like 5 frames. Why did it go up? Why did it fall up? But that explains why the ground wasn't stopping it. Because it was falling up. Oh, why is it falling up? Okay, I know why it is, but why though? Because it's like it's because I changed the minus to a plus in the movement in the movement handler, which is here. Should return like that. No, not like that. I think it is like that. Ah, fuck. I hate when this happens. Okay, let's actually, and you know what? I actually have the original one to compare. So let's see where that minus is. There's a return minus somewhere. Yeah, it's here. Now, I have the impression that this won't fix it. I played the wrong scene. It's not that one. It's this one. Yeah, okay, that doesn't fix it. Okay, but I know why that is. It's because the y coordinate is flipped, right? So I have to account for that in more than just here. So this is if the jump button is pressed this frame or jump buffer frames are going better. So this is the start of a jump. So this is fine. This should be positive. If we're airborne, then vertical acceleration needs to be taken into account. So you get the vertical acceleration and then you go from the current vertical speed. Okay, so when you start falling, what do? Fast falling equals false. Vertical speed. Okay, it's when the acceleration happens. Right, it's when the acceleration happens. No, it's not. It's current vertical speed. Yeah, it's minus terminal velocity. That's what's going on. There you go. Okay. Jump buffer frames. Is that not a thing that exists? In here? Oh, it's just called jump buffer. Wait. Why did I add frames there? Okay. Okay. So one thing, that still falls way too fast, doesn't it? But whatever, it works. So first of all, just grab this and make it larger, just in general. And move the camera, actually move this up a little bit, like here. So you can see what's going on. Right. Okay, so it's a tiny little thing, but like, I mean, if it feels like it moves, yeah, the question is a matter of how much space should this take on the screen, and how much is appropriate for this to take on the screen, isn't it? I should really close Steam because it's... Jesus Christ. Yeah, thank you, right on the main screen. Yeah, so next is the question of how big this should be on the screen. This actually controls pretty nicely. It does bother me a bit that it's so big. Or rather that it's so small. Can I just scale this guy up and expect it to work? Scale, let's say, 10. Alright, the camera is angled down, so that's why it looks weird, but... I feel like it works, I mean, yeah, it needs some fiddling with the numbers, right? But like, it works. It's not a problem, right? Actually, could I, rather than make the scale of this 10, make the camera zoom 10? Or not even zoom, just like go 10 units nearer, right? Well, not 10 units, no. Yeah, just reduce the FOV. No, not reduce the FOV. Just actually zoom. Where's the zoom? Camera zoom. I have no idea how 3D cameras work. Help. Okay, never mind. We're gonna be happy with just making the player scale higher. It shouldn't make a difference. Oh, I actually do have a question about this. I wonder if rotating this player, let's say on the Z-axis or on the Y-axis, will make it move in a different direction. Or is it just... No, okay, it's relative to world coordinates, but that can be fixed. In any case, we have done basic movement, so our to-do list is it's good. It's good. Okay, we're good with the to-do list. But since it hasn't been that long, I would like to do that bit. The one about making it so the guy moves relative to its own facing rather than relative to the world. So but should I do that? I'm feeling pretty lazy. I feel like I could do this some other day. You know what? Yeah, let's do it some other day. I feel like this is good enough progress. I mean, I didn't even have to work on it that long, and most of it was copying and pasting other code, but I'm the one that gets to decide my own metric for success, and I'm going to say that this was a successful coding, particularly for not having done this in a while. The streaming bit, I have been coding in the meantime, actually. So, yeah. I'm gonna be playing, Dynasty War. Actually, should I? Nah, I'm way too fucking lazy to do that. First stream in a while, so we're gonna call it good enough. Yeah, that's what I say. Also, why the fuck? Oh, I'm an idiot. I closed Steam and that closed VTube Studio. I'm so stupid. I forgot that was running on Steam. Well, no use turning it up now since I'm just finishing it. So yeah, you're gonna have to look at this particularly bare. Thanks for watching screen. Goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to the bot from earlier, from absolutely forcing me to acknowledge it. That's a tactic that I hadn't seen, honestly. Like, because usually when a bot shows up, what you do is you don't acknowledge it, right? But like, it really sprung that one on me. I mean, I'm talking about it now, right? But all right. I'm gonna be seeing you hopefully soon. I know I say this every time, but I want to do this more often, and I feel like it's only my own disorganization that makes it not happen. And I think that's a shame because I actually do like streaming, and now that I have a project to work on, like one that is not just a pet project of mine, but that is actually a thing that I want to work on with other people, that's going to make it so that I want to work on this more, and I can force myself to stream more if I just make the rule that rule is that I'm not gonna. They'll end us, man. I'm first. I'm first on the. I banned it. It's gonna remember that I banned it on my stream chat, and it's going to come for me first. Okay. I'm gonna see you some other time. Thanks for tuning in, etc., etc. Bye bye.